Out-of-place artifacts are fascinating phenomenons that has captured the attention of both scientists and enthusiasts. It refers to objects that appears to be from a time or place that does not fit with the accepted chronological or geographical context. Out-of-place artifacts have puzzled researchers for years as they offer a glimpse into a world that exists beyond what we know and understand. This is the 9th episode in our Out-of-Place Artifact series. In this video, we'll dive into the mysteries surrounding 5 fascinating artifacts found in different corners of the world. The Fuente Magna Bowl. The Fuente Magna Bowl was unintentionally discovered by a worker at the CHUA Hacienda, a family-owned estate located approximately 75 to 80 kilometers from La Paz, Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca. It had not previously been investigated for items at the site where it was discovered. Inside and out, the Fuente Magna is exquisitely inland with earthen brown engravings that features human and animal themes. Don Max Portugal Zamora, a Bolivian archaeologist, heard about the Fuente Magna's existence through his friend, Padre Manjon, around 1958 to 1960. Both gave the location its current name, Fuente Magna. The Fuente Magna is said to have been built by Sumerian people who settled in Bolivia after 2500 BC. The Sumerians employed seaworthy vessels that were well known for traveling to the far-off Indian subcontinent. Several Sumerian ships most likely circumnavigated South Africa and entered one of the local currents that flowed from Africa over the Atlantic to South America and eventually to the Pacific Ocean. They would have next looked for sites on Bolivia's high plateau where locals were growing food. They were quite particular about how the bowl was transported around the neighborhood. The Fuente was believed to be used to commemorate the ancient Bolivian people's goddess worship. The Fuente Magna figure was in the goddess position, with outstretched arms and legs spread. Furthermore, the markings on the bowl that corresponded to European signs for the mother goddess most likely represents the goddess Neith's early impact on the mainland of Greece and Crete. Others questioned the validity of the Fuente Magna, claiming that it was a construction by archaeologists to attract attention on a global scale. However, this objection is often discredited by the overwhelming backing from the majority of the scholarly world, as it has in the past when questions about the presence of any writing at all in the Americas have been raised. Göbekli Tepe. 6 miles from Urfa, an ancient city in southern Turkey, lies an ancient and mysteriously large engraved stones around 11,000 years old, carved and structured by prehistoric humans who had not yet invented metal tools or pottery. Stonehenge was built 6,000 years before these megaliths. The area is known as Göbekli Tepe. Klaus Smith, a German archaeologist and prehistorian who discovered this ancient megalith, believes that this is the location of the earliest temple ever built. Standing stones or pillars are put in the rings in the pit. There are 4 further rings of partially excavated pillars further up in the slope. Each ring has a relatively similar layout. 2 massive stone T-shaped pillars in the middle, surrounded by somewhat smaller stones pointing inwards. The highest pillars are 16 feet tall and weighs between 7 and 10 tons. Some are blank, while others are ornately carved with foxes, lions, scorpions, and vultures twisting and withering across the wide faces of the pillar. We can see to the horizon in practically every direction from this vantage 1,000 feet above the valley. In the 1960s, anthropologists from the University of Chicago and Istanbul University investigated and discarded Göbekli Tepe. They visited the hall as part of a thorough investigation of the area, noticed several broken limestone slabs, and concluded the mount was nothing more than a deserted medieval cemetery. Smith was conducting his study of ancient sites in the city in 1994. He decided to travel there personally after reading a brief reference of the stone-strewn mountaintop in the University of Chicago's research report. He knew it was special the instant he saw it. Unlike the adjoining austere plateaus, Göbekli Tepe has a softly rounded peak that rises 50 feet above the surrounding terrain. Without the need of metal chisels or hammers, prehistoric masons might have shaped softer limestone outcrops into pillars straight immediately. then carried them a few hundred yards to the peak and lifted them upright. After completing the stone rings, the ancient builders covered them with soil. They eventually added another ring adjacent to or on top of the original one. These stratas formed the hilltop over a millennia. The Kailasa Temple. The Kailasa Temple, built from a single block of excavated stone, is regarded as one of India's most spectacular cave temples. The massive building is one of the Ellora Caves, a collection of 34 cave temples and monasteries. The caves, which are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, contain structures dating from between 600 and 100 CE and is situated in the western part of Maharashtra. Even though the site is home to several spectacular buildings, the megalithic Kailasa Temple is undoubtedly the most well-known. It's unclear who commissioned the construction of the Kailasa Temple, which is known for its vastness and spectacular decoration. Since no written records exist, researchers usually credit it to Rashtrakuta monarch Krishna I, who reigned from around 756 to 773 CE. This claim is supported by many epigraphs that links the temple to Krishna Raja, although no writings concerning the king specifically mentions the temple. While historians have yet to establish the exact origins of the massive temple, a medieval tale portrays a beautiful image behind the massive structure. When the king becomes seriously ill, his queen appealed to the deity Shiva, according to a narrative recounted in Katha Kapataru by Krishna Najavalki. The queen promised to build a Shiva temple and fast until the temple Shikhara, or summit, was finished in exchange for the king's good health. The king recovered swiftly and work on the temple started, but it became clear that the Shikhara wouldn't appear for some time. Fortunately, a cunning engineer showed up and said that beginning from the top of the mountain, he could make the temple Shikhara materialize within a week. This extraordinary choice required the removal of 200,000 tons of volcanic rock from the rock. A gopuram, or tower, stands at the entrance of a horseshoe-shaped courtyard and is approximately 3 floors tall. Given the temple's immense size and exquisite ornamentation, it's thought the construction began with Krishna I, but might have continued for centuries, with each monarch adding their flair. Massive stone sculptures show many Hindu deities, with the focus on Shiva. When one passes the gopuram, panels on the left depict Shiva's worshippers, while panels on the right depict Vishnu's devotees. As the temple's foundation, a herd of sculptured objects appear to be carrying the structure's weight. Kailasa is regarded as an exceptional example of Indian art and architectures because of these magnificent sculptures, as well as the extraordinary engineering of the temple. The Miami Circle. The origins of the Miami Circle, an archaeological site in downtown Miami, remains one of the city's most interesting mysteries. The Miami Circle, also known as the Miami River Circle and Bracket Point, was added to the National Register of Historical Places in 1987 and was given the designation of National Historic Landmark in 2009. Early in 1998, when land developer Michael Brahman requested a standard archaeological study of the location, the circle was discovered. Surveyors' discovery of hundreds of unusual holes beneath a layer of limestone put a stop to plans to destroy the current apartment complex and replace it with opulent condos. Further inspection reveals that 24 of the biggest holes form the perfect circle with a 38-foot circumference. In addition, a number of artifacts that had radiocarbon dates between 1800 and 2000 years old were discovered, including charred wood and human teeth. The Miami Circle is possibly the only ancient construction in bedrock on the East Coast. The circle may have been created by the Diquis Native American tribe, according to radiocarbon dating findings and parallels in the instruments used. Others suggest that the holes were previously part of a structure, most likely a ceremonial edifice. The Diquis tribe is said to have lived around the Miami River, inhabiting coastal lands along the adjacent Atlantic regions. The tribe consisted of hunters and gatherers, and it's possible that they employed tools made of shark teeth and shells, which were both discovered during the site's excavation. With the Miami Circle going back over 1,000 years, it's astonishing that approximately 85% of its construction has been fully intact. Visitors to Miami may go to the location and witness the rings of limestones for themselves, although the holes are now protected by dirt and vegetation. Diquis spheres. About 300 stone petrospheres, also known as Diquis spheres, that were part of the now extinct Diquis culture, can be found on the small island of Isla del Cano and the Diquis Delta in Costa Rica. The Diquis civilization first appeared in the Rio Grande de Taraba Valley, where they created elaborate social, economical, and political structures to rule their community. In the Senecra period, between 1500 and 300 BC, farming communities that were sedentary, tiny, and scattered began to populate the area. These communities may have operated under an egalitarian system with some degree of tribal organization. The towns formed a chiefdom structure that governed over geographical divisions and exchanged commodities with neighboring regions through a system of trading networks during the Aguas Buenas era, which lasted from 300 BC to 800 AD. The earliest instances of sculptured stones, including stone cylinders, barrels, spheres, and character representations, arose at this time. Along the alluvial fields of the Taraba River and its major tributaries, towns developed into sizable communities during the Chiric period between 800 to 1500 AD, building substantial constructions out of round-edged rocks, paving areas, burial grounds, and circular or rectangular mounds with stone walls. The Diquis achieved the pinnacle of cultural development, with Diquis artists crafting intricate porcelain, bone, and gold artifacts, as well as sculpturing stone spheres at strategic locations inside the villages. The ruling class, or chieftains' homes, were approached by stone spheres that had been arranged in alignments in public plazas or along their entryways. The Diquis spheres, which are constructed largely of gabbro, a phaneritic or coarse-grained, mafic intrusic volcanic rock similar to basalt, with occasional specimens of limestone and sandstone spheres, ranging in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter. They were sculpted by pounding stones into a roughly spherical form with denser rocks and then polishing the stone surface with sand. Large stone spheres in the towns they met were not mentioned in the contemporaneous descriptions of European explorers until Spanish arrived in the area in the 16th century. Perifan's de Ribia's trip in 1570 added to the mystery when he failed to mention any native towns in his reports, implying that at this time, the sizable Diquis tribes had either abandoned their homes or had perished for unknown causes. The spheres went unnoticed until the United Fruit Company, which was clearing the forest to create room for banana fields, came across them again in the 1930s. From the Fuente Magna bowl to the Diquis spheres, each artifact raises more questions than answers, leaving us to wonder about the origins and purpose. These artifacts remind us that history is not always as straightforward as it may seem, and that there may be much more to the story than we currently know. Who knows what a discovery awaits us in the future, and what secrets they may reveal about our past. Thanks for watching our Late Night Top 5 channel. We're a new channel and would love to have your support by subscribing, liking, or simply dropping a comment down below. To watch more interesting late night videos, click the links to continue watching more.